All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Shalom to the elect of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and the Lord will have mercy on in these latter days. Shalom to the men of the Lord, prophesying, preaching, and teaching on the highways and byways in sincerity and in truth. Shalom, shalom. It says the worst here is yet to come. Another 176 million people worldwide could fall into poverty after pandemic. UN warns. So what you're starting to see now is panic set in all over the world. Now it may be tough to see it at particular parts of the U.S. You still got a lot of jakes uh, who are partying and bullshitting, who are not taking this thing seriously. Maybe they got unemployment. You know, maybe they they haven't been hit as hard, but ultimately a grave darkness has been put on this place, whether a lot of jakes can see it or not, and hopefully you're not of that lot, and that you're dwelling in the house of mourning, because that's where wise men dwell. See, wise men can see things for what they are, you know, and a lot of times guys who can't see things, they're always in this happy spirit. That's usually due to blindness and oblivion. You have the saying that says, you know, ignorance is bliss, and that's very, very true, because bliss is a symptom of not knowing things, of not being in the know. Ultimately, and you can get that in Ecclesiastes 7. Uh, yeah, here it says, "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart." All right, so wise men are heavier, in their spirit. They're more solemn. Not that they don't have an inner joy, because we know what's coming, but ultimately we're still mourning. We're in sorrow. One, because we don't know. Ultimately, we're of the elect. The scriptures say we're of the hopeful elect, but we're in sorrow because of the state that we're in still. It says sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. All right. So for the jakes that are in America bullshitting, that's not a good sign, man, because you really should be in fear of whether or not your name is written in that book, the Lamb's book of life, as it's spoken about in Revelation. But it says here, let me read without further ado. It says the economic downturn resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic is unprecedented in peacetime since the Great Depression in the 1930s. UN poverty expert Olivier de Schutter has said, according to a UN statement released on Friday, the shooter said the measures taken by governments to protect people so far have been insufficient. And of course it is, because ultimately they're here. They want to get rid of people, man. That's ultimately what it is. When this media blackout gets uh, going, and ultimately people are completely distracted with other news and nonsense, a lot of people are just going to disappear, man. you know, they're just going to do away with you, especially you poor people who are who they have a strong disdain for. They want, and they have it written, that they want the world to be down to 500 million. All right. He has called on world leaders to take more decisive steps to eradicate poverty and reduce inequalities. But they're the ones who are causing it. That's what people don't realize. You know, this poverty is prophesied. It says, this is Ecclesiastes 12:4. It says, "And the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and of the daughters of music, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." Because entertainment's at an all-time low. Mirth and entertainment's at, like, you go to NBA games, there's nobody there. The first NFL games, there's nobody there. Hey, compared to what things was, man, just under a year ago, this place was night and day different. Now, how much more so in the next 3 months, next 6 months? We could be out of here in the next 6 months completely. Chariots showing up, flying around. It looks like a sci-fi movie out here, man. Because that's the strangeness of salvation that was promised to come. And only the men of the Lord, the remnant that the Lord's going to have mercy on, is going to be delivered. Whether you're an Israelite or not, statistically, you're more likely to be destroyed as an Israelite than you are being an Israelite. Because the Lord is only dealing with the 1/3, that's a minority of our people. All right. It says, verse 5, it says, and when they shall be afraid of that which is not of high, that Salakia, also when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden. And aren't those locusts over there ripping shit up over there in East Africa? That swarm could easily come up in here. There could be a super hybrid, a super nest of locusts laying dormant right here in the U.S., man. That could come through. One swarm of locusts, man, the famine is here. That's it. All it has to do is hit California. And if you look at California right now, uh, hey, it's on fire, man. If you look at California, look at this. It says over a third of the country's vegetables and 2/3 of the country's fruits and nuts are grown in California, in one state. People don't realize how close we are to famine until they see at the grocery store that there's no food. All right, and then once that happens, hyperinflation sets in. You know, you're talking $1,000 for a loaf of bread, and all this unemployment you niggas have been having so much mirth about, throwing parties and shit. Hey, it's gonna hit you. See, this is why the scriptures say that the day of the Lord is gonna come like a thief in the night. It's not to the men of the Lord, the elect, the ones who are watching. It's to uncircumcised Israelites and the heathen. That's who's gonna get hit by surprise with it. It says, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail, because man goeth his long home, and the mourners go about the streets, because there's protests and rioting, which is all set up, but hey, it's written, you know. So that's where we are, and they're afraid when it says here, also when they shall be afraid of that which is high. This article is a result of fear. 176 million people, because no government wants to deal with that many people who can't feed themselves. Because with the population that don't know where their next meal is coming from, man, they're not gonna listen to you, man. They're not. They're barely wanting to listen to you with the mask. You think they're gonna listen to anybody when food becomes a problem? It says the Shudder warned that 176 million additional people worldwide, could fall into poverty, with $3.20 per day being used as the poverty baseline. Even though governments have pledged social schemes to help, the world's poorest people are often excluded because they don't have the digital literacy or internet access, he said. Now, that's very, very important, because Esau is telling you right there that he knows that this is a problem, that they don't have literacy, they don't have digital literacy or internet access. Well, how is he going to fix that? How is he going to fix that? They don't have internet access. Let's get it. You brothers probably know where I'm going. I'm going to go to 13. This is Revelation 13 and 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right. Every day you're starting to see more and more of it come together. See, Esau wants to enslave everybody. All of these poor people that live in these rural areas and in other countries, hey, they have set it up to where they can basically chip those people. That's what they want to do, and enslave them ultimately, you know, and put them on the Internet of Things. You have Starlink, which is also by the same guy, Elon Musk, the same guy that has came with he's the same guy who owns Neuralink, which is putting the brain chip in your forehead, all right, or the brain implant in your head. It doesn't have it on the forehead right now, but that's what John the Revelator saw, you know. And Lord's will, we start seeing it being put on people's foreheads, you know. But look at his other company. SpaceX is developing a low latency broadband internet to meet the needs of consumers across the globe, enabled by Constellation. Let me click on it. Lucky this internet tripping today. Come on, man. Hey, wow. So lucky, argue. The same guy that launched the SpaceX, the Dragon. You know, he's the same guy who did Neuralink, which is the brain implant, and he's the same guy that's doing Starlink, which is having a hard time. Okay, I could just read this. It says, with performance that far surpasses that of traditional satellite internet, a global network unbounded by ground infrastructure limitations. So they're not going to have to put any kind of equipment on the ground or anything. They just be satellites flying over the entire globe. All right, and a global network of unbound by ground infrastructure limitations. Starlink will deliver high-speed broadband internet to locations where access has been unreliable, expensive, or completely unavailable. So they can get Amazon rainforest high-speed broadband internet smack dab in the middle of a jungle with these satellites. Starlink is targeting service in the northern U.S. and Canada in 2020, rapidly expanding to near global coverage of the populated world by 2021. Now do you see how the entire world is going to be linked up? The same guy that's doing the Neuralink, the same guy who's launching the Dragon spacecraft into orbit. They're launching something like 42,000 satellites, you know, and these almost look like chariots. And some brothers have mistaken these for chariots before, but this is Esau launching, you know, dozens of satellites all at once in the air. This is part of it. They're basically going to make a mesh over the entire globe of the Earth to give internet coverage. All right, that's what's happening. So when it says it here, they don't have digital literacy or internet access. Well, they're not gonna have to. They're gonna have a chip in their right hand, and all they're gonna need to do is just hold up their hand and buy whatever they need to buy, and their internet access is gonna be everywhere. You know, 5G is the other internet infrastructure that they're building up. In some cases, government programs are now running out. Experts said it. Added Salakia. Families in poverty have by now used up whatever reserves they had to hold whatever reserves they had and sold their assets. The worst impacts of the crisis on poverty are still to come. You're right about that. But what does the Lord say? This is Isaiah 25 and 5. It says, "Thou shalt bring down the noise of the strangers as the heat in a dry place, even the heat with the shadow of a cloud. The branch of the terrible ones shall be brought low," because all of these Edomites across the world are going to feel it now. See, now is the time where the curses are lifting off of us and falling onto our enemies. And when I say us, I mean the 1/3 elect and 144,000. You 2/3 about to be cursed even more, and ultimately you're going to be judged here. It says, "And in this mountain," which mountains represent governments or power structures. It says, "And in this mountain, the Lord Yahweh of hosts make unto all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the lees of fat things, full of marrow, of wines on the lees well refined, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people." Because Esau is literally destroying the world now. The entire global economy is being plunged into poverty all over. You can't tell me that's not oppressive. You know, what do the scriptures say in Proverbs 29? It says, Proverbs 29 and 2, "When the righteous are in authority, people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." And that's the example that we're seeing here. It says, "And he will destroy," back to Isaiah 25 and 7, "and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations." So this place is through, man. Ultimately, this is just another sign that we're in those last days. So with that, hopefully you Akim were edified. Shalom to all you sincere brothers, the elect, call Allah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash, Wa Ba'Bal.